Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining. My name is Ryan Anger, and I am a river ranger for Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the river program manager here at CVNP. I've been a park ranger since the 2015, about since 2019, I've been serving as Cuyahoga Valley's river ranger and program manager. And today we are going to focus on the topic of tenacity and what it means to hold tenacity as a value when you work for a national park. So, to give you a little backstory on Cuyahoga Valley National Park's history and where we came from, and really how we have keyed into this value of tenacity, it helps to look back at the kind of recent history of Cuyahoga Valley and the Cuyahoga River. As many know, the Cuyahoga River was once the river that burned. Actually, it had a series of 13 river fires that caused various amounts of damage. And you see here in the bottom left photo, one of our biggest fires in 1952 caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. You see here also our reporter Betty Cleric from the Plain Dealer, who wrote a lot about environmental justice and clean water regulations, is scooping up a cup of Cuyahoga River, and you can see even in the black and white photo that water is sludge. The Cuyahoga River in the shipping channel at the time was said to ooze and to be so thick with sludge that rats could run across it. It was a mandatory hospital trip if you were to fall into the river. And then even in the national park or to be national park section, this back in the early 70s, late 60s, before the establishment of the recreation area, the Cuyahoga River in what was known as the Jate section of the river had cars along the banks used as bank stabilization. So at the time, the concern was losing lands and not the quality of the river. And those cars were backed in under their own power at the time. So you can only imagine what was leaking out of those vehicles. But it took a tenacious group, a group of local advocates, a group of grassroots thinkers who really sought Congress and sought local influence to designate this area as a national park site to be preserved. This 33,000 acres between the cities of Akron and Cleveland, even in the 60s and 70s, of very urban and high populous area. And this group of individuals who saw the value of preserving the Cuyahoga River Valley and the green space and the canal corridor and the both natural resources and historic resources that run through our valley here in Northeast Ohio. They were able to convince Congress and to convince really at the time of the president to sign into act the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area, which was our first entrance into the National Park Service. And we are very fortunate that this season we are celebrating our 50th anniversary, 50 years of Cuyahoga Valley National Park, being that that gem of Northeast Ohio that had once been subject to so much degradation, now being a national park. We were officially established as a national park in the year 2000, so we're at about half of our time as a national park and about half of our time as a national recreation area. And as a national park, we've seen quite a bit of changes. Obviously, from the Clean Water Act in '72, which the Cuyahoga River was a huge predecessor of, a huge influence for needing the Clean Water Acts. The Cuyahoga River has made quite a turnaround. And being the only named natural resource in our general management plan had us really reprioritizing how we manage the river in the year 2015. So in the year 2015 is when we really took a deep look at our priorities. And as a park, we wanted to focus holistically on one effort. And that's when we revisited our general management plan, and we had decided to focus on the primary natural resource in that plan, which was the Cuyahoga River. About 26 miles of Cuyahoga River runs through the national park. The whole river itself is about 100 miles and runs through about 15 different cities and land management agencies. Now, as we focused on our strategic action plan, the idea was to think 5 years ahead and create a vision for what we wanted to see. And as a park, as Cuyahoga Valley, everybody from our senior leadership down to the seasonal level, which at the time I was just a seasonal ranger in 2014 and got hired permanently in end of 2015. So just for my personal timeline of where I was at, but also to really to call Cuyahoga Valley out and to call our park planning and leadership out for being inclusive in that process, which I still think is a huge reason it was so successful because the park had buy-in from the top down when we focused on this plan. We came together, all of us, and we met in person and really about a year's effort of focusing on this work to establish a 5-year plan. And you see here our goal was in 2021, the Cuyahoga River watershed, its communities, and the national park are international symbols of human, urban, and ecosystem renewal. And we knew we'd reach this victory through, or I'm sorry, we knew we'd reach this vision through the victory of being no longer listed as an environmental area of concern and celebrating this achievement through national and international environmental awards and designations. So the environmental area of concern is part of the um, greater Great Lakes agreement that we have through agreement between Canada and the United States to identify areas of poor water quality and basically a list of kind of benchmark standards that we are trying to move past. The area of concern is still technically in play. It covers about 45 miles of the Cuyahoga River, so all of our section as well as the section to the north and a little bit into the city of Akron. And within this watershed, there are approximately 20 sub-watersheds and one main corridor along the river's main stem, which again encompasses all of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And as part of this Great Lakes area of concern, there are beneficial use impairments that are the cause of the concern. So things like water quality contamination, having a dam in the national park, like you see here. This was right around the establishment of the national recreation area in the Station Road access point of the national park. We used to have this Lowhead Dam. We were very happy to be able to celebrate that that has been removed in 2019. So about midway through this strategic action plan that was removed. Now, like I mentioned, a couple of those beneficial use impairments are still in play, causing this section to be an area of concern. But the national park and its partners to the north and south are very close to a full delisting. We actually have a whole new committee set up to look at what delisting looks like in the future. So part of our rationale for picking the Cuyahoga River as our main focus for our strategic action plan was because at the time we had again identified tenacity as being a key value of our national park. As a park that went from having a river that was so contaminated that it was known to catch on fire to the fact that when the grassroots effort came to the National Park Service with recommendations to create a Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area, it was said that the director at the time said over his dead body would we become a national park site because they did not think that this valley fit the benchmark or fit that mold for what national park sites used to look like. We were fortunate that at the time this was also the Parks of the People movement, which was really a push for having these more urban access parks. But again, you can see just in these photos here the transition we had from at the time, having dams and really not encouraging river use. Even in my first season in 2015, it was kind of incredible to see more than 10 boats a season, and to today where Cuyahoga Valley National Park has taken our strategic action plan and really embedded it into our general work plan. Now, the Cuyahoga River is an established resource that we actively monitor, we actively patrol, and we really encourage people to use. We became a state designated water trail, and we also applied for national water trail status. So, coupled with that, in 2023, we were actually voted as the number one urban kayaking experience in the United States. So, through many of our achievements, but really through the idea of tenacity and through sticking together as a park site and really all coming together to focus on these priorities you see in our action plan here, um, rolled its way in. It's kind of was the start and the emphasis of our soon to be community access plan. And our community access plan was basically a amendment to our general management plan that really focused a lot of new ideas like new access and new river uses into our management plan. Our community access plan has a lot of amendments for elsewhere in the park. It was a full amendment for the whole park, but it was a big change from the original management plan when the Cuyahoga River was still seen as being too contaminated or too um, dangerous and just not up to recreation standards at all. So, like I mentioned from my first season, being surprised to see that, 10, 15 boaters a season. Now, in the summer, at some of our more busy access sites, like you see here in the bottom photo, is near our Boston Mill Visitor Center, which is one of our busiest access points. And it is not surprising to see a couple hundred boaters over a busy weekend at just that site alone, which is, again, a far cry in the 10 years that I've been a ranger here. And so, even though we still are listed as an area of concern, we are actively working towards that. We're many, many steps ahead of where we were in 2017 when this plan was first, finally rolled out. And as I mentioned, we have succeeded in becoming that international symbol of human, urban, and ecosystem renewal. And again, I wholeheartedly think a lot of that stems back to this park's ideals of being tenacious and sticking to a plan, seeing it through, and not being afraid to take on harder tasks. It would have been very easy to ignore, river recreation, ignore those trends that we saw growing, but we knew that in order to serve the public, that we really needed to um, be relevant. And as we all know, if you're joining this call and if you're, in outdoor recreation, we've seen how much river recreation and even just being able to access the river has grown. And we've clearly seen that in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and we're very fortunate that we have been able to come together to push those resources forward and to provide these new services. So with the idea of tenacity comes, all sorts of new opportunities. And during this time when we really shifted our focus from being a park with a river to being this river-centric park, we knew that bringing more boaters into the park would require new initiatives and really a new focus on how we operate. And so you see from the slides before and into shifting into what we have today here, we have a dynamic river that offers everything from, class one, class two rapids through the national park section to easy pools that allow folks to really test out their skills. And with that change in use, we saw opportunities to leverage volunteer groups. And so our first volunteer group was really focused on getting on the water and meeting visitors at the resource. So you see in this upper right photo, I'm meeting with some of our River Patrol volunteers, which we currently have 10. And one of these volunteers in that photo is actually a Hartzog Award winner, which is the former Volunteer of the Year award for his work. My Schnellinger in the corner there for his work as a river patroller. And we also have the group in the bottom left is part of our Trailblazer group, and they help out at our river access points to make sure people have the information they need, our visitors, before they go out on the river to stay safe. So we're approaching them from both the on the water and off the water locations. And this was, not something that existed before I became a river ranger and before I started working as the program manager. This was new to not only our park, but having volunteers on the river was new to the Cuyahoga River itself. And so we've been able to branch out to support our partners in Cleveland Metro Parks and Summit Metro Parks with preventative search and rescue programming, with safety boating, with scouting new sections of the river, even with search and rescue as well. So being able to spread our resources out and to be seen as as one of the many leaders on our water trail here has been again a big change in how we operate and how we really value our river. And it also just changes how we promote our river. It allows us to safely send the public out and to know that we are providing up to date information. But this group, is not easy to start. It took a lot of effort and a lot of time to get volunteers to be safely on the water. And that meant taking the time to write job hazard analyses, to write proper standard operating procedures, but it also meant time focusing with partners and other groups and taking the time to review how other parks that have water trails and other river centric parks have been able to operate using other resources like volunteers. It is foolish to think that you can do this all on your own. Here at Cuyahoga Valley, we have representation from all of our divisions coming together to make these priorities for a river and to push projects forward so that we can all stay on the same page. But it takes time, it takes capacity, and those are two things that we don't always have. So knowing when you can leverage volunteers and knowing when you can leverage existing groups like we have with our Trailblazers here at Cuyahoga Valley, which is a group that has been around for 30 years, but this conversation of how to keep people safe on the water, like I said, is new over the last few years. So rolling them in and starting new volunteer groups and working with partners has been a absolute game changer and has really allowed us to work on programs and try new ideas that would be completely impossible if it was just me out there alone. And with partners, it's something that here at Cuyahoga Valley we are very fortunate to work with. The Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park really it was born from that grassroots movement in the grassroots group that really advocated for Cuyahoga Valley to be a national recreation area in the 70s. And it has stayed by our side. It has stayed a dear friends group, and now um, really our main support as far as partners go. We have number of stakeholders and partners, but Conservancy is right there at the top of everything we do in supporting us with new initiatives like properties that have been sold off and have been able to be funded through the Conservancy and partially donated to the national park. Opportunities like that allow us for new river access points. So, one of the new sites that we partnered with the Conservancy on will be access in the next year or so to add to our growing list of about now 6 access points just on our 26 miles. And the Conservancy also helped us with one of my favorite projects, which was a mural at the Boston Mill access. This as I mentioned, the Boston Mill Access is one of our most used sites. It can see sometimes 100 boaters in a day, you know, pretty consistently through the summer times and into the fall. And after you put in from Boston, you almost immediately greeted by this photo in the upper right corner. You see here this graffiti wall, and this is underneath the road bridge right after you launch. And I was actually down in San Antonio on trip with River Management Society for their one of their workshops, and it was on the river walk that I was inspired by the murals that they had. And the San Antonio River Walk is very famous. If you haven't had a chance to go, I highly recommend it. I'm grateful that the River Management Society hosted the workshop week in San Antonio, so I was able to get this inspiration. But I was back in my office thinking about the Riverwalk and thought, if they're able to get this accomplished, I'm sure we could too. And with a proposal to our park leadership here at Cuyahoga Valley, who is always supportive of new ideas and new creative ideas, and with the support and funding from Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park, as well as partnerships with the Summit County Engineer Office and the Conservancy's Artist in Resident program through MoCA, the Museum of Creative Human Art. We were able to commission Arlen Graff, who is an internationally known muralist, to create our Wild Urban Refuge, which is a mural dedicated to the renewal and recovery of the Cuyahoga River and a celebration of the 50 years of Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and looking forward through the next generations of how our park and how our river is used and appreciated. And again, a small idea that really changes the entire layout of the access. But it is just looking back, one more example of that tenacity. It would have been easy for other parks to say that we don't have the capacity for that, or that it is not a priority, but um, that is just not the mentality here at Cuyahoga Valley National Park. At Cuyahoga Valley, it is always seen as a new opportunity, and maybe every opportunity can't work out, or and maybe it gets pinned up to a board and the idea is revisited later. But the goal is to be innovative and to try new things in order to stay relevant and to continue to best serve our public and to make the best example of urban and ecosystem renewal for our Cuyahoga River. With that, I just wanted to allow a space for any questions. I know I cannot be there in person, but if you would like, you can more than welcome to reach out to me. My email is ryan_anger@nps.gov. And I would be happy to share ideas or to talk through any maybe new initiatives that you have that you would like to get off the ground into the water, or anything else that I can help answer. Please feel free to reach out. And with that, I just want to say thank you again, and we will see you on the water.